What's going on, everyone? So the injury report for today's game is Anthony Davis is probable left plantar fasciitis. LeBron James is questionable, however, with left foot soreness. And Austin Reeves has been listed as out for today's game against the Atlanta Hawks. Now, in all honesty, I think LeBron should sit. Obviously, Austin Reeves took that tough tumble in the Thunder game. You want to be precautionary, right? You don't want to risk him getting hurt or anything like that. But LeBron James, yes, he's coming off of a great game where he was really the only one that showed up against Miami. But I think he needs some rest. He was coming off of a horrendous stretch. I mean, arguably the worst of his career just based on how bad he was during that stretch. He's had bad stretches over the years, but it's just... that's where I think the age element comes in, right? Like a lot of people, he's washed. I don't think he's washed or anything like that. It's just he's not 27 anymore to where the bad games are still, 25, 7, and 7, right? Where it's just like for anybody else, that standard would be insane. But for LeBron, it's like, man, he's trash, right? Like it's wild. Now you look at LeBron, and because of his age, that's where I think Father Time has really hit him. Is just the bad games, right? The games where he doesn't have it going, he can't just go and give you that 25, 7, and 7 game, right? It's more of like a 12, 7, and 7 game, which is, is still good by role players. But for LeBron and what we're accustomed to, it's just very different. It's coming off of the Olympics. Obviously, he wants to go on this stretch, and, he talked about how he wants to play all 82 games. Even JJ Redick has came out recently and just been like, I don't think that that's best for LeBron. I don't think that that's best for this team, and I don't either. I really do think that LeBron James needs to get some rest. I do think he needs to kind of get his body right? And I think that the Lakers should sit him the next 2 games. And here's why. So, the next 2 games are against the Atlanta Hawks and the Portland Trail Blazers. The Lakers should be able to beat at least Portland, right, without LeBron James. Atlanta, they're cruising right now. They're looking really good. So that might end up being an L. But even if it is, so be it. It is what it is, right? Because it's more about the long-term approach. But if you look, right, the Lakers play the game today, which is the 6th. He wouldn't have another game till the 13th. He would get an entire week off, right? So to me, I think that that's what he should do. I think he takes the Atlanta and the Blazers game. He'd get a full week off for the Portland game, or before the Timberwolves game, right? Then he has the Timberwolves and the Grizzlies game, and then he gets another 4 days off. So he'd only play 2 games in a 2-week span? A 13-day span? I think that is what he needs. I think that's also good for Anthony Davis. Like those 2 stretches, I think are going to be huge for the team, period. But I think for LeBron James, I really do think he needs to rest. I think Anthony Davis, there's even an argument to be made. If you beat Atlanta, there's even an argument to be made to just rest Anthony Davis too. Right? Because he's dealing with little knick-knack injuries. And if you beat Atlanta, right, you give AD and LeBron a week off. I think you should, in all honesty, right? Anthony Davis has looked pedestrian the last few games. Since the Orlando game, they're 6-8. Right? They have not looked good. I think you rest LeBron, and then if you beat Atlanta without LeBron, which is very possible, right? Rui gets to slide over. Rui gets to play the 4, which is his natural position. D'Lo gets to kind of be more on ball, and we've seen him kind of be able to pick up some of the slack, right? I do think it's still very possible that the Lakers could win that game. However, I think that if you do beat Atlanta, I think you should sit LeBron on that other game, right? That Portland game. Because you should be able to beat Portland. Portland's got some talent, but you should be able to beat Portland without LeBron James and Anthony Davis. Right? If guys really show up and play, it also would force guys to have to play. Right? It would force guys hey, you're not going to have LeBron and AD, so figure it out. Right? Reeves, he's back, let's go. Right? Assuming he's back. But, it's just I don't know. I think you kind of force your other guys to pick it up. You get LeBron James and Anthony Davis, like I said, essentially a week worth of rest. Then they come back, they have 2 games, and then they get another 4 days off. Right? If LeBron only has to play 2 games in a 2-week span, and Anthony Davis only has to play 2 games in like a 10-day span, I think that goes a long way for these guys. And I do think it's really needed, particularly for LeBron. Right? And I know, and look, to Anthony Davis' credit, even though he's been terrible, but even with his credit, like he has done a much better job of playing through like the knick-knack injuries and stuff like that. I think part of that is the 65 game rule, right? Where you have to play at least 65 games to qualify for accolades. Where like, now before it's like, who cares? As long as I'm top, then, it doesn't matter, right? But now it's like, okay, I got to play so many games if I want to be an all-star and all these other things, right? So I do think that that's part of it. But I also think that like it would be good because look, the Lakers usually have always put LeBron and AD on the injury report regardless, so they could sit them in a pinch if need be, right? That's kind of the thing, right? Like that's how they've operated the last few years. So seeing them on the injury report isn't a surprise, right? Seeing them on the injury report isn't something where it's like, oh wow, didn't see that come, right? But I think that they should get some rest. Both guys are coming off an Olympic run where both guys were very key, integral parts to winning that Olympics. There was a genuine argument Anthony Davis was the second best player, right? Throughout the entirety of the Olympics. Obviously, Steph had that, 2-3 game stretch, but I'm talking about start to finish. There's an argument these 2 guys were your 2 best players. LeBron was, literally. But, you have that. Then you had, preseason, and now you got regular season, and, they've played a lot. And look, LeBron James he's not 30 anymore. Talking about a guy that's, in year 22, age 40. Right? As Iron Man as he has been, there is this hey, why don't you take a rest? Why don't you, let your body kind of recover a little bit here. Don't exert yourself. Even JJ kind of was like, I know he wants to play all 82 games, but I don't think that that's something he should be trying to do. And look, no one's going to knock him, right? He's going to want to play, the 65 or whatever. But if he misses, 5, 6, 7 games, no one's going to be like, wow, LeBron's trash. He only played 77 games. No, everyone's going to be like, dude, the fact that he played 77 games in year 22, age 40, right? Given he's not just some role player at the end of the bench. Right? He's still a key integral part. That's a big difference, right? So I do think that he needs to, I think you sit these 2 games because then you get essentially a week straight worth of rest. And then technically it'd be longer, right? Because he had, the day in between, he had yesterday, right? So really it'd be over a week, but you essentially get a week's rest and then you got 2 games and then you get another 4 days off. Right? And look, if you beat Atlanta, I think you do the same thing with Anthony Davis. The only reason I wouldn't sit Anthony Davis too is because if you got to win at least one of those, in my opinion, because if you lose both of those, you're back to 500. You got to stay above 500. So I think you play Anthony Davis in that Atlanta game. If you win that game, then especially if Reeves comes back for that Portland game, I think it's all right, here we go, right? 80, you sit out, run it with, Koloko and Traore and whatever else you got to do, and I think you have at least a chance to win that. And even if you don't win it, at least you're still above 500. You're getting 80, like I said, 5 days, 6 days of rest. Then he has to play 2 games. Then he gets another 4 days. Same thing with LeBron. Right? LeBron gets, a week's worth of rest. I just think that that's the best approach. I think that that's how they should do it. But, as always, this is a discussion, and I pass the question on you. Let me know your thoughts and opinions down in the comments below. What do you think? How do you feel? What are your thoughts? Do you agree? Do you think, yes, that's the best approach? You need to sit LeBron these next 2 games, let him get some rest, let him recoup, let him regroup. Do you think, no, he's got to play, right? We can't afford to lose games, can't afford to drop games, can't afford anything silly to happen. Every game counts, every game matters, which does, it absolutely does. But if you can get LeBron basically recalibrated, right? Like kind of get them a tune-up, right? An oil change real quick in this next week. I think you should do it. I think that's the approach that you should take, honestly. But do you feel the same way? Do you not? Do you think like, no, you got to play them, you got to do whatever you got to do? Again, however you feel, whatever your thoughts are, either way, I would love to hear it. So let me know down in the comments below. That being said, if you haven't liked this video, hit that like button. Helps me a lot. We enjoy these types of videos, and I truly appreciate it. Not subscribe channel, hit that subscribe button. Turn on the bell notifications. Appreciate y'all. See you in the next one.